Nigel Farage has done us all a massive favour by making the election interesting by entering the contest as leader of Reform. It's already eventful. He was milkshaked by a young lady outside a pub. It turned out she was just doing it to promote her OnlyFans. Maybe she just wanted to see someone else covered in sticky fluid. Or maybe she was jealous that the Reform Party has a father figure. Speaking of which, I'm launching a service for women like her called Only Dads. You can pay me $7.99 a month and I'll dress up as your father and tell you I'm proud of your life choices. Of course, the milkshaking was cheered on by leftists, who momentarily forgot to be kind and instead called for political violence. Owen said that it was art, although he was a bit less ecstatic when he was the target of political violence. Stand Up to Racism, a far-left mob headed by Diane Abbott, also cheered it on. They don't seem to understand that encouraging political violence could come back to bite them on the arse. Although, to be fair, if a milkshake was chucked at the abotamus, she'd probably catch it all in her mouth like a humpback whale engulfing krill. I made a little joke about the milkshaking, saying that if any prick chucks a milkshake at me, they'll be drinking their next milkshake through a straw. Left-wing commentator Matthew Stadlin chastised me, saying, "I didn't have you down as the violent type, Leo. It's a joke, Matthew. Milkshakes are drunk through a straw. The joke is I wouldn't do anything and they'd still drink their milkshake through a straw." Who said that left-wing people have no sense of humour and willfully misinterpret everything to feign outrage on social media? Anyway, speaking of left-wing people being wrong, The Guardian did a fact check on Nigel Farage and it's one of the funniest fact checks I've ever seen. This fact check has been shared by the usual dodgily funded far-left groups who say it proves that Farage's claims are 100% false. But if you read the article, it even admits Farage's claims are correct, then tries to deny them based on some sort of semantic technicality. Like all fact checks, it says stuff like, well, the claim that men in blue t-shirts massacred people with machetes is completely false because the shirts were actually more of an aquamarine and had a button collar, making them polo shirts rather than t-shirts. Let's have a look. Have 2.4 million people settled in the UK in the last 2 years? Essentially no, this is false. Official statistics showed that 1.2 million people arrived in the UK in the year ending December 2023, which projected over 2 years makes 2.4 million, but it is incorrect to say that they have all settled. Many will have arrived on temporary visas, for example students and workers on contracts. Oh, well, that's all right then. They're here, but they haven't settled. They're just living here as if they've settled. I mean, it's a huge difference. I mean, never mind that a large proportion of people on temporary visas extend and stay permanently. According to this Excel spreadsheet, they haven't technically settled. Do we need to build a new house every 2 minutes to accommodate legal migrants? It's not entirely clear what this statistic relates to. Well, Guardian, I think it relates to the fact that people need to live in houses, and people tend not to bring houses with them when they enter the country. A semi-detached brick house is very difficult to bring with you in an inflatable dinghy. This rate would be slightly more than 260,000 homes a year, equating to about 2.6 people per house based on current net migration, which is slightly higher than the average UK household occupancy. So by the Guardian's own calculations, it's an undercount. So it is not quite as misleading as the 2.4 million claim, although it doesn't take account that the UK's housing crisis is a question of distribution as well as supply, with an estimated 700,000 homes empty at any one time. Of course, the solution to The Guardian is to end the concept of private property and institute communism. Some properties are empty because no market is 100% efficient. When selling a house, it's going to be empty for a bit between owners. There's always going to be a float of empty properties. It doesn't mean that it's a good idea for the state to seize those properties and just chuck anyone in them. Did a series of local election candidates yell Allah Akbar? Farage told the audience, "We are finding what happened after the local elections just a few weeks ago, candidates winning in Leeds, in Burnley and Bradford and elsewhere, standing shouting Allah Akbar, standing shouting we're coming to get you." This appears to be false in 2 areas. Well, let's have a look at the video of this definitely not happening.
We will raise the voice of Gaza! We will raise the voice of Palestine! Allahu Akbar! Anyone that stands with Zionism, we're coming after you.
Oh yeah, it's definitely not happening there. In classic fact-checker fashion, they deny it's happening by saying that it's happening, but it doesn't mean anything bad. Ali later apologised for his Gaza comments while pointing out that Allah Akbar is commonly used by Muslims as a celebratory term. I mean, I've seen it used as a celebratory term when burning captured Jordanian pilots in cages. It's not exactly Arabic for hip hip hooray or happy birthday. Is the UK doing better economically than EU members? Saying the UK was in economic decline in relative terms, Farage added, "Okay, better than our former partners in the European Union, we're massively behind America and many other parts of the world." This is a claim also made by some Conservative politicians, but it is at best a very selective presentation of the facts. The UK's quarter-on-quarter GDP growth was 0.6% for the first 3 months of 2024, compared with 0.3% for the Eurozone. So according to The Guardian's own statistics, Farage was right then. The UK's economic growth was 0.6% compared to 0.3% in the Eurozone. That's double that of the Eurozone. That's how numbers work. 0.6 is twice as much as 0.3. Can you shoplift £200 worth of goods without being prosecuted? Farage said that crime was so bad now that people generally don't even bother to report it, adding, "But it's okay, you can shoplift up to £200 of kit before anybody is going to prosecute you." This could be put down as just a rhetorical flourish, but it is not true. While many stores are concerned that shoplifting has become worse, there are numerous news stories about people being prosecuted for stealing less than £200 worth of goods. It's interesting that The Guardian relies on anecdotal information there. According to Professional Security magazine, who should know, since 2004, a shoplifter who purloins property worth £200 or less is not normally arrested and is instead given a fixed penalty notice of £80. In other words, they're treated in the same way as a motorist whose car has remained too long in a parking space. So Farage is correct on this one too. Did Keir Starmer fight very, very hard for asylum seekers to get benefits? Farage said the Labour leader fought very, very hard for those that arrive on the back of lorries to get benefits once they got here. This is misleading. It is an apparent reference to a 2003 legal case in which Starmer, then a leading barrister, represented 5 asylum seekers denied financial support and won the case. However, this was not a generalised case for all asylum seekers, and nor was it about benefits in the usual sense of the word. It was about a group of people denied very basic support, including accommodation, still given to asylum seekers. The Guardian is being deliberately obtuse here and claiming that it's just one individual case. Legal cases set precedent. Whatever happened to Starmer's asylum seekers set the rules for dealing with future asylum seekers, because the government knows that if they don't provide the resources that Starmer won for his clients, they will be taken to court. Let's have a look at some of this very basic support. 4-star hotels. So basic. So that's 6-0 to Farage. I trust legacy media about as much as I trust a fart after eating sushi from Baghdad airport. And fact checkers are about as reliable as adverts telling you there are hot single models in your area who want to bang now. Anyway, thanks for listening. If you want to buy me a beer, there are links below. And consider becoming a Patreon to get access to exclusive content and stuff. I've got an interview coming soon with a global finance whiz, and it's about how global finance is driving open borders and the destruction of national identity in the West. Anyway, thanks for listening. Goodbye. Bye bye.